Okay. Now, how do I get the screen so I can see myself better? You don't know. All right, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Let me sort of give everybody a sort of, and I say sort of because nothing is written in stone, update as to what we are doing at TBI. For the past 2 Friday nights and Saturday mornings, we have recorded our services, pre-recorded should be the word, in the sanctuary, where I have been there, Kai and Ann for Friday night, but just Kai on Saturday morning, and Stuart is president of the congregation. Last week, we reintroduced Torah readings from the Sefer Torah, the Torah scroll itself, and my son Spencer has helped me with the taking of the Torah scroll out of the ark. And wait a minute here, we're trying to change something here. It didn't work. Just don't worry about it, please.
I can't do it.
I said, don't worry about it. I'm having him do that. Why not? But also, since he lives with us, it's not as if we're exposing ourselves to anything that we haven't been exposed to. We're trying to be as safe as we possibly can be in the building. For the high holidays, we are pre-recording the services. And we're doing this in stages on 3 days this month. And then we have professionals. I'm using different terminology from a different time frame, cutting and pasting, putting in the choir, putting in what I'm saying, putting in the shofar blowing, and we're trying again to do this as professionally and as safely as possible. I'm going to share with you something that is, I don't want to say haunting me, but concerning me. If we are pre-recording the service on, what is it, the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st of this month, that is a good month ahead of the high holidays. And any comments that I may make may be completely out of date, or a greater concern, new huge issues may arise. So I'm just thinking out loud, and any feedback, I'm open to anything. I'm open also as I'm trying to hear what my colleagues throughout the country are doing. We have all kinds of groups online, and I'm attending all kinds of webinars on how to deal with this. What to do if things change radically. And here's what I have in mind right now. All going well, I am planning on the morning of Rosh Hashanah and also the morning of Yom Kippur to send an open letter through our e-blast to all members of the congregation. I don't know if we're ready, willing, and able to upgrade that to a sort of YouTube, Facebook post. I'm not sure yet. But if anything should transpire, and we never know, things have changed so radically, we don't even know what's going to happen today. So I'm open to that, to make what we do and the comments that I'm going to share with you, if necessary, more relevant. Talking about relevancy and where we are with everything, hanging over our heads as a family is what's going to happen with the Sarasota County Schools. And we still have no idea where we're going. I was talking to another parent just a few minutes ago on the phone. Where do we stand? We don't know. What are we doing? We don't know. They don't know either. We have sent in all kinds of emails and phone calls to counselors and people at school. And I honestly feel they don't know, and I know where they're coming from. It's difficult. And again, I'm glad I'm not a school administrator right now. We postponed school until the end of this month, which from a personal family level makes it a lot easier. Spencer won't have to miss school because of Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah is Shabbat. And not only won't he have to miss school, it's such a pain in the neck to get all the assignments caught up, but he'll be able to help me on the Bima. I just want to share a few other things with you about things that I am doing and the benefit I'm sharing with all the members of the congregation one way or another. Yesterday, I attended an extraordinarily informative webinar from the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. That's the seminary for conservative rabbis. and issues on how we as a religious community have dealt with plagues in the past, what we have done in terms of having services, and how things are so radically different today since we can have services online and we can have Zoom services. I think I've told you I've already attended a couple of Zoom Shivas and was talking to a family about another Zoom Shiva coming up in the near future. It's not the same thing. I know that, and you know that. We're not there with the people. We can't hug the people. We can't be with them. But at the same time, I have to say, it's enabling, let's say, those relatives who are in Europe or in California and can't make it, at least to be able to make it virtually. There are all kinds of examples that I learned about, or I should say my awareness was made more clear yesterday. Some of them would apply more to a far more traditional congregation. And tomorrow at 1 o'clock, there's going to be a comparable webinar put on by the Freehoff Institute, which is the Reformed Jewish equivalent of the Conservative Law and Practices Committee. In other words, getting down to Jewish tradition and Jewish practices. What have we done in the past? What can we do in the future? Reform movement is far more open and liberal and flexible, of course, and knowing that what we are doing has some sort of grounding in Jewish tradition, not that do whatever you want. So I'm finding this very, very helpful for me. A lot of it I either know or haven't thought about in a long time, and other things are completely new because of this new challenge that we are facing. So when we talked before the program, I said program, yeah, before the class began, about how we will respond as individuals when all of this will be over, and will we still be a little bit more reluctant to hug, there will be all kinds of issues, and we will be making things more accessible through modern technology. And I just want to use the one example that I've had to deal with, and in a couple of cases most recently, and that is with regard to funerals. It used to be Jewish tradition that you'd bury as soon as possible. That meant that if relatives were far away, and forget about planes and airplanes, I mean a while ago, they couldn't come. Now it is easier to come, and sometimes we will even postpone for a day so a person can get the right plane reservations and all of that. But given this pandemic, how families are torn apart, should we take the risk, shouldn't we take the risk, and so forth. A lot of funerals, the actual burial, because oftentimes what I've experienced is a burial and that's it, are recorded and made available to family members. But I seem to recall, and this is 20 plus years ago when I was in Pennsylvania, there was one funeral home that taped, you know, the old-fashioned tape recorder type tape, that taped all funeral services. And we are now on a far more sophisticated level in terms of having the video as well. And we are able to connect where we couldn't connect before. So there's the loss, to be sure, of being there in person. There's the loss of going to a visitation or a shiva where you can just be there. And what we have said over and over again, you know, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. Your presence is comfort enough. There's that loss, but there's also the gain of a Zoom gathering, a Zoom shiva. I have found it very, very fascinating, uplifting, inspiring for the couple of Zoom shivas that I have attended to see where people were coming from. I think one, there was over 150 people there. And 150 people could not have gone into that living room of the family of the deceased. So I guess we have to take advantage of new practices. Some of them will be temporary, but some of them will develop into permanent practices that the Jewish world in general will adopt. And then in a couple of generations, or maybe not even that long, they'll say, oh, this is the way it always is. You have to have a Zoom, this, that, or the other. And then somebody will scratch his head and say, well, what about in the 18th century they didn't have Zoom? But that's our historical consciousness. Now, I think I've rambled enough for this morning. If Corin is ready, willing, and able, I'm going to end this formal part, and I'm going to open it up to discussion. And what we used to do when we met in the library, what you see behind me is a fake background screen. Just open it up to general discussion, and everything goes, and any question is legitimate. And if we don't know the answers, we promise we'll find out. Corin, are you ready to switch?